Did the United States just accidentally invade Mexico with troops and create a tense standoff that was as dangerous as it was embarrassing for Trump's Pentagon? Hi, I'm Dan, and welcome to another Occupy Democrats Report. Please hit that subscribe button to stay informed as we expose Donald Trump's war on everything. And now let's jump into this breaking story. Let's begin this report by highlighting why things were already tense between the U.S. and Mexico. Just a couple of days ago, Trump uttered this off-the-cuff but very concerning remark about using military force in Mexico. What you're about to hear was a typically irresponsible thing for him to say, but once he raises the temperature on something, those around him are careful not to make matters worse, right? We'll see about that.
Also potentially launching strikes in Mexico or putting American troops or American personnel into Mexico to deal with it.
Would I launch strikes in Mexico to stop drugs? It's okay with me. Whatever we have to do to stop drugs. Mexico is, look, I looked at Mexico City over the weekend. There's some big problems over there. If we had to, would we do there what we've done to the waterways? You know, there's almost no drugs coming in through our waterways anymore. Isn't it down like 85%?
It is, sir. Absolutely.
I don't know who the 15% would be.
Nope.
It wouldn't be you.
No, that's for sure.
No, I think it's been...
Tons and tons of
you would say
drugs.
that's a big signal.
Absolutely.
We have almost no drugs coming into our country by the sea, by, the waterways. And you know why, okay? I mean, it's pretty obvious. Would I do that on the land corridors? I would absolutely. Look, every boat we knock out, we save 25,000 American lives. Not to mention the destruction of families. These families are decimated forever. The mother, the father, the children, they never recover really from it. When you lose somebody, like the way they live, if you lose them, but the way they die is horrible.
Two things happened in that statement. First, Donald Trump uttered a pretext. He is famous for those as a gaslighting first step. He gives a reason that sounds plausible for something he wants to take action on, and then once he takes action, all bets are off. Like when he said ICE was only going after the worst of the worst, and then of course they immediately began aggressively rounding up non-criminal brown people and separating families. And second, he did that thing where he presents danger along with some emotional manipulation and then positions himself as the savior and protector. And by framing it with that misdirection, he makes many forget that it's illegal, unethical, and immoral for the United States to drop bombs within friendly nations on people we declare criminals without proof or due process. So with all of that said, those in charge of our troops would surely pull out all the stops to make sure something stupid doesn't happen while tensions are high, right? Well, it would appear that an accidental Mexico invasion was not stopped. The Daily Mail headline said, "Report, U.S. troops storm Mexican beach."
American troops pulled up on a Mexican beach in a dramatic escalation of tensions after Donald Trump threatened to bomb the country. U.S. contractors arrived by boat on Monday at Playa Baghdad, driving signs into the sand near where the Rio Grande empties into the Gulf of Mexico. Alarmed witnesses quickly alerted officials, and heavily armed Mexican security personnel rushed to the scene on trucks mounted with machine guns in a terrifying standoff. The Pentagon, in a deeply embarrassing statement, admitted that its troops were mistaken when they landed on the beach. The Mexican personnel watched as the Americans drove 6 signs into the ground, which said, "Warning, restricted area." Written in English and Spanish, they claimed that the beach was the property of the U.S. Department of Defense and had been declared restricted by the commander. They also said unauthorized access or photography was not allowed in that area, and that if you are found here, you may be detained and searched. Mexico's Foreign Affairs Ministry said its Navy removed the signs from the sand, which it believed were on Mexican territory. The U.S. Embassy in Mexico shared a comment from the Pentagon on Tuesday, which confirmed that personnel had been sent to mark National Defense Area 3. Changes in water depth and topography altered the perception of the international boundaries location, the statement said. Government of Mexico personnel removed 6 signs based on their perception of the international boundaries location. The Pentagon added that contractors would coordinate with appropriate agencies to avoid confusion in the future. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum declared on Tuesday that the International Boundary and Water Commission, a binational agency that determines the border between the two countries, would arbitrate the dispute. "I have told him on every occasion that we can collaborate, that they can help us with information they have, but that we operate in our territory, that we do not accept any intervention by a foreign government," Mexico's president said. Trump has said several times as of late that he is not happy with Mexico. Mexico's president has rejected the name change of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America by Trump at the start of his second term, which added a layer of complexity to the planted signs.
How many military embarrassments must we endure today? This morning in a social media post, Trump suggested execution for Democrat leaders who participated in a video that encouraged military leaders to follow the Constitution. And in the most random news of the day, the Washington Post is reporting that the Coast Guard will no longer classify the swastika, an emblem of Nazi fascism and white supremacy, as a hate symbol. Instead, it will be reclassified as potentially divisive. The bone-spurred Trump and his woefully unqualified Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, are so embarrassing. They are in a constant battle with decency and common sense, and they are losing badly. To put a fine point on it, this video by Senator Chris Murphy just surfaced, so I'm going to make his denouncement of our Commander-in-Chief in the harshest of terms the final word.
The President of the United States just called for Democratic members of Congress to be executed. This is not normal. We cannot allow this to feel normal. This, as far as I know, has never happened before in the history of the country. Every Democratic member of the Senate and the House, their life is in jeopardy right now, especially those that were specifically targeted by this social media post. Democratic senators and House members who were simply saying that no member of the military should act illegally or in violation of the Constitution. The President of the United States just called for members of Congress to be executed. If you are a person of influence in this country, maybe it's time to pick a fucking side. If you are a Republican in Congress, if you are a Republican governor, maybe it's time to draw a line in the sand and say that under no circumstances should the President of the United States be calling on his political opposition to be hanged. We are at a very dangerous moment right now. The President is engaged in the wholesale incitement, endorsement, and rationalization of political violence in this country. This is a very slippery slope that we are on. This is a moment for people to step up, for Republicans to step up, for business leaders to step up. Anybody who has a voice or a soapbox in this country needs to draw a line in the sand and say that it is not acceptable for the President of the United States to call on the murder of his political opposition.